Welcome to Knicksfandom. This is an independent New York Knicks fan-based podcast, which was created by fans for fans. The show is hosted by LA Blackwell, Danny, and Flau. They'll discuss the issues surrounding the Knicks, the NBA, and various other sports-related topics. Join us. It's going to be a heck of a ride.
Hey everyone, it's that time again. Please join us for the next 40 minutes or so while we talk about the New York Knicks, the NBA, or anything else that might come to our minds. This is episode 6 of our podcast known as Knicksfandom. I'm your host, LA Blackwell, and it's great to be back. As always, I'm glad to be joined by one of my co-hosts, Danny D. How have you been, Danny?
I'm good, LA. How's everything going for you, brother?
Going well. And the crew wouldn't be complete without my regular co-host, Flo. How's everything, Flo?
I'm good, LA, man. How you doing today, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm back on the air with y'all. Can't be mad about that. Very excited about today's show, but I want to change it a little bit and jump right into our first segment for today. Tip off. As usual, this is a short segment where we each pick a topic that we have been thinking about and would like to discuss in a group format. The topic may pertain to any type of NBA or sports-related topic that we may find interesting, and in turn, hopefully, you, the listener, will also find it interesting. To start us off this week, Danny D, do you have anything you'd like to discuss in regards to our tip-off segment?
For the tip-off segment, I'm going to start off with is rumors have it that Paul George is not interested in extensions with Indiana. So, therefore, he might be on a trading blocks with the Celtics. So they're saying there might be a 2-player deal, saying that Paul George will go to the Celtics for Jay Crowder, Amir Johnson, Kelly Olynyk, and a future draft pick. So that might be the trade, guys. What do you feel about that?
You take that first, Flo.
Believe it or not, Danny D, I actually heard this trade, and it's interesting to say the least because you think about it. It gives Boston a superstar that they've been trying to acquire. I know they signed Al Horford in the offseason, so you could say he's one all-star. Them giving up Jay Crowder, Amir Johnson, and Kelly Olynyk for Indiana. That's a value trade pretty much. They're getting at least players back in return. You would prefer to trade a superstar for a superstar, but you're getting some value in this trade. I think the sleeper in this trade is going to be Jay Crowder, who's continuing to get better and he's emerging. In terms of Paul George going to Boston, it helps Boston out a lot. But it's interesting. I think it's a win-win for both teams at the end of the day.
I agree with you on both, or at least flowing so far on this level. I definitely could see how it would benefit both teams. But I kind of think we're leaning toward Boston. That's kind of what they've been looking for. One more major superstar piece to go with Bradley, to go with Horford and everything of that nature. And that would be definitely the type of player I think they need. Somebody that can put the ball in the hole by themselves, not really have to be set up. What you think about Danny?
Yeah, actually, it might do that. And also, the money works out. They said the money breaks down evenly. That's what it said. And Indiana will get some pieces but the only thing Indiana is saying that they don't want to lose them out in free agency. Basically saying they don't want to lose them for free. They might as well just trade him now and get something for his value.
How many more years does Paul George have? Do you know?
I'm not sure, but I think it might be it because he said he's not interested in signing an extension. And
he definitely said that right now?
That's what sources says, allegedly.
Okay, got you. That's something to keep an eye on, definitely.
Yeah, sure.
I definitely would tip the East a big way right now if that trade goes down.
Definitely.
And how about you, Flo? Do you have anything for our tip-off segment today?
Believe it or not, I actually have one trade, and I actually have 2 trades, but let me mention this first trade, if I can go ahead.
Yeah, go right ahead.
The Miami Heat, this is just a rumor, the Miami Heat would trade point guard Goran Dragic and either James Johnson or shooting guard Dion Waiters to the Minnesota Timberwolves for youngster, small forward, former Rookie of the Year, Anthony Wiggins.
Wow, I like that. I like that trade for them. I'm a big Wiggins fan. Is there other components to that trade?
Gordon Dragic and either James Johnson or Dion Waiters.
I would not do that if I'm Minnesota. Not right now.
Heck no. Heck no. Heck no.
He's way too young, way too early. I would definitely do it if I'm Miami, though. That's a great piece to put with Whiteside, you know.
It's a steal.
What you say about it, Flo?
To me, this trade don't make no sense at all. Pretty much, Gordon Dragic, number one, is like making at least $17 million. And Wiggins is actually making $6 million.
Yeah, that's cheap, and he's young. I mean, relatively speaking, $6 million.
Yeah. This trade makes no sense at all, especially for Minnesota. I can see Miami pulling this trigger on the trade. The only reason I can see Minnesota pulling this trade for one reason only, I just keep hearing rumors about how their current coach and current GM, Mr. Tom Thibodeau, is really not happy with the youngsters. He feels like this team is pretty much overachieving this year. You know, they're really they're not having a good season at all whatsoever.
So
they have a losing record. Thank you for correcting me.
No problem.
I believe they're 5-13 this season right now. They're really struggling right now with the youngsters, and there's rumblings that pretty much that Tom Thibodeau wants to trade his young pieces. Everybody on the team is tradable, with the exception of Karl Anthony Towns, who's untouchable.
Well, I wouldn't do it right now. Definitely not for that guy. If anything, I would trade Rubio, as we always keep talking about previously, or maybe Levine, but that'd be the only piece I would want to trade right now if I was them. But it's just too early with that type of talent you have in that team. I just think you need to wait. They're young. Let them play out a little bit. Then you go from there. Especially not for that type of player, not to me. Okay, but thanks fellas for those first two. For my tip-off segment, it's a report I heard, according to Sam Amico of Amico Hoops, there have been some trade discussion regarding Nerlens Noel being traded from the Philadelphia 76ers to the Portland Trail Blazers in a deal that would potentially involve Allen Crabbe, who thus far has not been living up to his contract, although it's still very early. But Portland's currently 11-10, is in the 8th place right now. I know the money doesn't work. Crabbe, his contract for 4 years for $74+ million. Noel's only has 1 year left for about $4 million. Have to involve some other players. But Portland's trying to make a move to strengthen their team as a whole. And the same thing with 76ers. They have Simmons. They're trying to wait for him to come back. But they definitely need some pieces down the road. So what do you think about this potential trade, D?
Yeah, if I'm Noel, I got to go. I don't want to stay in Philadelphia. Too many sentences I'm not going to playing time. I want to go. I want to leave. Anywhere. But for that trade, but they have to finalize it and put some more pieces in it. He'll be a good fit out in Philadelphia. They have the back guard with Lillard and McCollum, and he'd be a important fit in that system. He rebounds the ball quite well. He blocks and defensively they need him. He'd be out in the West, so they need another big like him out there.
Yeah, I can see that. How about you, Flo?
I think it's a good trade for Portland because I don't think they're happy with Mason Plumlee overall right now. He's struggling. So I definitely could see Portland making that trigger. But on the Philadelphia side, I'm not sure. Like you said, the money doesn't jive. That's number one. And number two, I would think Philadelphia would probably want an extra, extra player in return. But at the same time, I've been hearing rumors for the longest that Nerlens Noel wants to be traded two places. One is the Boston Celtics, and the other team is interested in playing for is the New York Knicks. That's what I've been hearing. So him going to Portland, I'm not sure he'll be happy going there. But if Portland start winning, then I guess he won't say much. But at the end of the day, man, getting out of Philadelphia is better than staying in Philadelphia. So.
Okay, I definitely agree with everything y'all saying on that regard. But I feel like this might be a very good move for Portland. I could see a little bit of the lobs type of thing with Noels and with Lillard, and also with McCullough in the backcourt. But I'm just not sure if that's the move that you want to make this soon. Also with Philadelphia, I'm not sure if you get enough back. I don't know if you really want to take that type of contract with Crab and everything. With the amount that he's spending, he's not really playing up to it. He's only averaging about 9.2 points to shooting 43% when you could get a little bit better to me at this point. And maybe not put yourself cap-wise into that type of deal. But we'll see. Time will tell. And that ends our first segment. Which leads into our second segment. As always, we goes right into our weekly roundup. And the weekly roundup for this week for the Knicks was on Monday, 11/28. They lost to the Thunder, 112-103. On Wednesday, 11/30th, they played the T-Wolves and won 106-104. And on Friday, a home game, they won to the T-Wolves, 118-114. The Knicks went 2-1 the previous 3 games since our last podcast. The Knicks' total record now stands at 10-9, 8-3 at home, and they would be 7th place in the playoff if it started at this moment. Danny, please summarize your thoughts about these most recent games. But as usual, I don't want to go into too many individual game details right at this time.
Basically, right now they're doing good. They really should be 3-0. They should have beat Oklahoma. They had that game, messed up on the end. We're gonna get into details about that. And the bench stepped up with the games of the last 2 games. And a win is a win, 2-1. I'll take that. So they definitely came together and played, And my man Flaubert can get into. We're gonna talk about Noah and see what's going on, Flo.
And that leads us right into you, Flo. Same question. What stands out about these 3 games since our last podcast?
Oh, simple. Noah played in the Thunder game. That's the difference. That's the difference. That's why they end up 2-1. Noah played the Thunder game. That was an automatic loss. Once I found out Noah was playing, I knew it was a loss. Automatically. I knew it. No surprise.
Wow. That's tough. I expect them to go 2-1 at the time, but I thought they would win against the Thunder and the T-Wolves and then lose the second game to the Wolves. But they didn't, which was good on that point. But specifically, let's just start with the first game. I'll start with you, Flo. The Thunder, which they lost to 112-103. You want to go a little more detail at this point?
Pretty much. No defense in the last 3 quarters, man. Pretty much, man. The Knicks just dominated the first quarter. That was it, man. They had good ball movement in that first quarter. Rose was attacking the basket. It looked good that first quarter. They looked real good. Then pretty much in that second quarter, man, oh man, OKC bench, man, stepped up. 2 players dominated that game. Pretty much. Anthony Morrow and his Cantor. In that second quarter, the Thunder's bench had 31 points, man, in that second quarter. They scored 34 points in that second quarter. It's amazing, man.
Yeah, very true.
That is amazing. Amazing, man. The Knicks had a problem, had a problem defending the pick and roll. I don't know why. I don't know if they're practicing pick and roll defense in practice. So again, also points in the paint. Like I said, man, Noah's not protecting the paint. Easy layups, man. Pretty much for Steven Adams and his Cantor. And I told you guys, I said that every opposing center that plays the Knicks, when they play the Knicks and they see Joakim Noah guarding him, they should go right at him. No excuses. They should go right at him. Because I believe at the end of the day, Mr. Noah right now has become the Darrell Reeves of the NBA right now. That's what he is right now. He's done. He's done right now. He's been an all-star with Chicago. I respect his career in Chicago, but right now, his career is finished. He's through. There's nothing left in that body. Nothing.
Okay. How about you, Danny D? What stands out with that first Thunder game?
The Thunder game, they got out-rebounded. There's Russell had a triple-double. Russell going to do what Russell going to do. But you have to contain the other parts. And like Flo said, Cantor having 27 and 10 rebounds. Steven Adams, 14 and 10 rebounders. We got out-rebounded 63-47. That was basically the problem because it was a close game. We had the lead, and they just went on a run. We couldn't do anything defensively. That was basically it. If we didn't stop those 2 boys, and Anthony Morrow and Anthony Robinson, you can't let these bums score, man. Anthony Robinson, this guy's horrible. He's horrible. You got to contain those guys. You're going to let Russell do what he's going to do, but you got to contain the role players. And they stepped up and they did what they had to do. That's how we got that out.
All I feel you. I feel you on that. I have to agree with y'all. You know, that game made me feel some type of way. I was like the Ted movie. I was like, bleep you Thunder after that game. But I was really upset because I thought they should have won it. I knew Westbrook was going to do what he's going to do. He's putting on an MVP type performance. But at the same time, I thought Noah would do a better job. You know, foolish me. But that's basically what it came down to. He played 26 minutes, 2 points, 3 rebounds. That's horrible. You can't get
as a starter
win like that. Exactly, Danny D. Exactly. And but then also during that game, you had a lot of turnovers, which had been plaguing the Knicks. They had 5 to basically, well, not on that side. That's one of the good things actually, was they had 5 to 14 turnovers, and also they had for once the free throws. They did a good job with that. They had 25 to 12, but then inside the paint, like you spoke about earlier, Flo, that was horrible. 46 to 66 points in the paint. You can't allow that. And then field goal percentage, 39%. That's not going to get it done. All that played right into Cantor, 27 and 10 off the bench. That's horrific, especially when you're getting that poor performance from Noah. But it's the game they was in. It was close at one point. They didn't really have no bench help. I think that kind of hurt them a lot as well. And I just thought that was a game they should have played a lot better. It was just a tough game to see. And it's basically what we thought it was going to be when we previously talked about it. We looked at what had to be happen. We knew we had to stop and who had to play great games. Melo didn't play as great as we thought he would hope, or at least I did at the time. And also, Porzingis was okay, but it wasn't really spectacular to me, you know. And all those things hurt you. I mean, he had 21 points. That's pretty good, but at the same time, with Melo only shooting 4 and 19, that's not really going to get it done in that regard. Anything else stands out in that game? Anyone want to say anything else about it? D?
No, I'm all right.
Okay. What about you, Flo? Anything else?
This Thunder game, hell no. All I can say right now, pretty much, man, be honest with you, that we owe the Thunder when we go play in OKC. We owe them one. That's the way I look at it. If you're the Knicks, you should circle the date on your calendar when you play the Oklahoma City Thunder. When you travel in OKC, you need to go in their building and you need to take care of business. Pretty much. You owe them one. Bottom line.
Absolutely. Got to agree on you with that one. All right, let's move right into the Wolves game, which the Knicks won, 106 to 104. How about you, Danny D? Anything stands out in that game?
For that game, I'm gonna talk about the bench. The bench came to do what they had to do. You had Kaminsky coming off the bench, had 14 big ones. Jennings had 12.7 assists. They were doing things. They were playing. Even though we gotta stop fouling guys. I don't know if we're playing with our hands, playing with our feet. Minnesota went to the line 39 times. They converted 32. If they'd have hit more free throws, they'd have won that game.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then I don't know what we got to do, guys. We had to put a boxing one on Cat, guys. What we gonna do? What we had to do for him? Yeah, 47-18. He went off. He went off.
And it was crazy because Porzingis actually had 29, which would be a great game any other time, you know.
It was a great game, but 47, and we blew a 17-point lead. They had me shaking my boots. I was nervous. But you was cussing. I was cussing in this game. I said, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah,
I know he's going to let these fools come back and win this.
And then it was giving up a lot of free throws in that game, too. It was like 39 to 15. And it was, you said, again, with the 26 to 17. It's like you said, it's bad transitioning. I think the not really knowing each other that well is hurting them as well, too. I think that's a big thing right now. How about
because
you?
I like the wins, but these are close games. 106, 104. That's a close game. Good thing we got Carmelo's clutch at the end. Had that clutch big shot at the end. You know, that 1-on-1 on Wiggins.
He didn't even have that great a game either.
Oh no, not at all. He was struggling until the fourth. You know, but he know how to turn it off. That's what great players do.
Yeah, he's
leader of the team. You know, he stepped up.
Mm-hmm. That's what you need. That's why I always say when they get on Melo, a lot of times this is what you're gonna need play all time. Big players hit big shots sometime. You know.
And he took a jump shot. He even go to the basket. Me, I went to the basket, but he took a jump shot. Hey, it falls, it falls.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. Anything else you want to say about that, Danny D?
No.
Okay. How about you, Flo? How about that game?
I want to quote you what you just said a minute ago. You just mentioned that this is what you need from Carmelo Anthony come playoff time. Key word you said. You said for Carmelo Anthony. Not Joakim Noah. Carmelo Anthony. Just keyword. I want to make sure you understand that. We all heard it. We heard it from you, Carmelo Anthony. Bottom line with this game, Knicks dominated this game with exception of the fourth quarter. I know that the Knicks bench had 19 points overall. I know that unfortunately Courtney Lee got hurt. He was having a great game. He had 7 points in 7 minutes. Shot 3 of 3 from the field. He had 3 assists. The Knicks forced the T-Wolves they forced the T-Wolves to have 9 turnovers in that first half. Ricky Rubio had 0 points in that first half, believe it or not.
As usual.
But again, the biggest problem the Knicks had here in this game is 2 things you guys mentioned. Karl Anthony Towns, Cat, had 20 points in that first quarter. And the Knicks were in the penalty, at 7 minutes and 11 seconds in that third quarter. They're already in the penalty, man. That's horrible, man. Horrible. Defense was horrible in that game, man. But overall, Kaminskas, 14 points, 4-5 from the field. Jennings had 7 points, 7 assists. And Porzingis, 1 block, 8 rebounds, 29 points. This is a game where the Knicks self-destructed in that fourth quarter, and they needed Melo to bail them out. And as usual, Mr. Melo has always been clutch. This is the reason why you give him $124 million. You're not giving him that money just to pass the ball when the game's on the line. You're going to need him. You're going to need Melo to have the ball in his hands in the fourth quarter where the game is on the line. Whether we're down by 1 or whether we're up by 1. Melo is a closer at the end of the day. So you want the ball in his hand. Teams got to decide what they want to do. Either they should double him, pick your poison, double him. But if you're going to double him, then the ball must flow through either Porzingis' hand or it must go through Derrick Rose's hand if you're going to double Melo. If not, what you witness in that Minnesota game is what you're going to expect from Melo when the game is on the line, when the clock is ticking. Ball is going to go in Melo's hand. We're going to play ISO basketball, and we're going to challenge the opposing team to stop him. Pretty much. Better put a hand in Melo's face, because at the same time, Carmelo Anthony is pretty much like a Bernard King 2.0. You really don't know what is going to happen. You might take it to the basket. In this scenario, what he did was nice little jab step, knocked out a jump shot Andrew Wiggins' face, pretty much. And I apologize, I mispronounced his name. I kept calling him Anthony. But Andrew Wiggins' face, pretty much. Basket, game over. Knicks win.
That was it. That was the game right there. You broke it down, Flo. To me, that was the main issue. And this is one thing I just want to say regarding him. I hear a lot on the streets about Melo is a ball hog. He's a ball stopper, which is true on some regard. But also, then you have to realize this is what he has been brought here to do. He's a scorer. And he's a person that's going to be your first or your second option. So when you constantly boo him, like I'm hearing some people in the garden as soon as he touched the ball, it's like this is what he's here for. You don't want Porzingis taking every shot this early in his career. He doesn't have that ability to do that yet. As you saw, some games he gets very tired the next game. And this is what you want. You want a veteran to bounce off him. This is what's really lacking right now with the T-Wolves. They don't have that veteran to bounce off with a Wiggins or Towns when they may not be playing their best game. As you saw in the next game, Towns didn't have a great game. But I thought Melo did a great job with that at the end. And also think this next game, which we'll get into, he did a lot of little things that people may not have noticed, like tipping the ball at the end, getting a strip. He had a nice block and things like that. And he does pass the ball when you're in certain areas that he feel confident with. And you also see him pulling guys to the side. This is what's going to really work for this team going down the stretch. But I thought another big issue was that the Knicks had 24 to 17 assists, which was very good for them. That's some issue they've been having. They also didn't turn over the ball too much. They had another thing was the 3-pointers. They had 13 to 4, which was very good for them in that game. I think that made a big difference. Also, like you stated earlier, Flo was Kuzminskas, a.k.a. Cuz as they call him, 14 points. And it's really a nice little blow off the bench with him, especially with Thompson not doing so good. He's been out injured. Nice little air for Melo when he goes to the bench, things of that nature. But I was very happy with that game. Like you said, Danny D was close to losing it. Shouldn't have got that close, but, it is what it is. This is a young team in that not so much the players are young, but they're young together. So those things they have to learn to get through those tough times and still come out with a W. But a very good win for the Knicks in that one. And then finally we have the next game they play the Wolves again, which they won 118 to 114. How about you, Flo? Anything standing out regarding that game?
This game here, wow. Pretty much, man, again, defense, man, it's really, really sloppy after the first quarter. I'm going to be honest with you, man. If the NBA was only on one quarter game, the Knicks would be undefeated. It
Can
seems
I
like
shoot
that's the
one
only
second,
quarter.
Flo? 1 second. I really thought you were going to jump with your man O'Quinn real quick, right? I thought you were going to say something first. But go ahead.
Pretty much, man, that first quarter, like I mentioned before, man, if the Knicks only play one quarter, they'll be undefeated, man. Because pretty much they always play good defense in that first quarter. But in the last three quarters, man, it's just horrible, man. They gave up 31 points in the second quarter, 36 points in the third quarter, and then they played a little bit of defense in that fourth quarter when they only gave up 26 points. Just a little bit of defense, you know. But that second quarter, Vujacic, came off the bench. Hernan Gomez pretty much working the pick and roll. Same thing also. Jennings and Hernan Gomez, and also Jennings and Vujacic working the pick and roll, Kyle O'Quinn grabbing a lot of offensive rebounds in that second quarter. I believe in the first half, Kyle O'Quinn had 10 points, shot 5 of 5 from the field, 6 rebounds, and 1 block in that second quarter, in the first half. And Melo had 15 points in the first half. But Karl Anthony Towns had 4 points in that first half, I'm going to move forward into that fourth quarter. The last 6 minutes of that game, man, the Knicks only allowed 4 points. They forced Minnesota to shoot 2 from 11 from the field. Pretty much, again, I already knew that the Knicks were going to win this game once I realized that Kyle O'Quinn was starting as opposed to Joakim Noah. I knew the Knicks was going to win this game. It was an automatic victory. But the Knicks shot 12 from 31 from the 3-point line. Overall, Melo had 24 points. Derrick Rose has 24 points. But keep in mind also, Rose had 8 points in that fourth quarter. So here's a guy who can be an assassin for the Knicks in that fourth quarter if teams are going to double Melo, And also Justin Holiday, who started in place of Courtney Lee, 13.7 rebounds, So again, also looking good. This Knicks team looks good. Pretty much, they really look good. They got to keep it going. What I really want to mention also, since November 12th, the Knicks have the best record in the Eastern Conference. They're 7-3 since November 12th. I was just about to
say that too. Yeah, I think they're the third best one.
They actually have in the Eastern Conference, they got the best record after November, since November 12th. Third overall, correct. Yeah, third overall. So they're looking good. They look like they're starting to gel. I'll mention Kyle O'Quinn's name a little bit later on, guys.
Okay. How about you, Dan D? What stands out with that game?
Stands out, man. Then all the starters win double figures. All the starters win double figures. And so now it's no liability on offense. Everybody was in double figures, and they gel and they play together, and that's what we need. Like Flo said, I don't know if Flo didn't mention, they're 4-0 when Noah doesn't play. They're 4-0.
So, all right, let's just jump into it. Is it time for Noah to be on the bench? Is it time to start Kyle Quinn, or is it time to start Hernan Gomez? What about that?
They're having articles and stuff like that. They said he's going to be in a slight thing and a slight debate, what you're going to go in. But then it makes sense. You have to. If you're gelling with not this man playing, you got to start Kyle Quinn or Hernan. You have to. It's common sense.
I would ask Flo, but I know he's ready to put him on the bench himself right now and strap him down. How about you, Flo?
Pretty much, like Danny D mentioned, yeah, the Knicks are 4-0 without Joakim Noah. Keep in mind, they're 6-9 with him. 6-9. All right. Pretty much, Noah is averaging 4 points, 8 rebounds, and shooting 29% from the free throw line. This guy pretty much has been a bust, pretty much. Or, in the words of one of my colleagues at work, basura, which is pretty much Spanish for trash.
Garbage.
Garbage.
Okay.
All right. He's done, man. He doesn't have anything left to offer for this Knicks team. Pretty much, man, he should be on the bench sitting next to the Knick water boys, getting the Knicks players water like Melo or Kyle O'Quinn, Hernan Gomez, and Kuz. Get them their water, pretty much. He has no business being on the basketball court. He doesn't bring anything to the table. You guys keep, especially LA, you keep mentioning about leadership. Noah brings leadership. We don't need him for the playoffs. He's not Allen Iverson, man. He can't turn it on or turn it off. He's not AI. Only AI is the only person that can do that. He's not AI, period. We don't need this guy at all. And I can't wait till the end of the show because I have one more trade rumor I've been hearing I want to mention. So pretty much I can't wait till you till we go to the end of the show, and I'll mention this trade rumor. I can't wait to talk about it because it involves Joakim Noah going to Minnesota. So I can't wait to talk about it. So please, let's get to the end of the show. I want to talk about this badly.
I hear you. I hear the frustration. I understand. But I also feel like it's still a little early. It's still a little early. He's still trying to get back in shape. He has some injury issues. And I'm going by the pedigree right now. I'm going by he's a former defensive player. He's still a veteran. He's still a leader in the locker room. He's still one of the better passers they have inside the post. I'm not comfortable with having a Hernan Gomez at this time. He does a lot of ticky-tack fouls, which I'm not crazy about. A lot of little things you don't want to happen as you go further in the season and basically the playoff. And I don't think you really want to put Porzingis there as a center. It's really going to wear him out if you do that. And, okay, you start O'Quinn, but then what happens off the bench? So, to me right now, I mean, you can do that right now just for O'Quinn if you want to start him because he's hot to hand right now. I have no problem with that. But I also say don't throw away Noah this early. I still think he still has some left. I've seen games where he actually had pretty good games. I've seen games where he struggled. But I just think you have to just wait and see it. I'm more waiting to see to bring the All-Star break. If he still looks this bad then I'm totally on board on, like, we need to make a move by that point.
Hey, man, I'm not trying to hear that. You getting paid $72 million. I can't go to work and be like, yo, man, just give me a couple more weeks so I can get my flow back in together. You know what I'm saying, Flo? You feel me, Flo? Like, I don't feel good this week. Yo, just give me to February. He's getting paid $72 million. I ain't trying to hear that.
I hear you, but it happens. It's the nature of the beast. You also have to see what happens. I'm betting on the pedigree right now. Like I said, I could be wrong. But I just want to see wait till he's the All-Star break. Hopefully they keep winning the games. And like they said, they want to make the move, change their starter. I think he'll be open to he seems like he's a vet. He would understand at this time he wants to win. But I also think, the more bodies you have, the better off it's going to be for the Knicks at the end of the day. So I'm hoping he's not going to be a bust at this point because I don't think you're going to get much for him. Even if you want to trade for him, at least you have to hope his value is higher than what it is right now. You're not going to get nothing for him. So I just don't want to take a person just to fill that spot at this point. But, we'll see. It's still early.
He come off the bench. No problem with that.
Yeah, I would agree. Right now. But anything else for that game? Regarding me, I would say the other two things that stood out that maybe you didn't talk about yet was the fouls, 18-25, which was good for the Knicks. Usually they have a lot of issue with the fouls and putting other teams into the free throw line. And also was the rebounds, 54-46. I thought that was a big thing for the Knicks as well. They rebounded well, especially with Melo. He had 29 points and 5 or 10 from 3 points, which was a nice big bounce back game for him overall shooting wise. So very good game for the Knicks. They pretty much shut everybody out except for Mohammed, and I think he had 14, and Belgica, he had like 17 for them. So, and as you said, before Flo, Towns only had, 20 and 5-18. You can live with that. So that was fine. Great win for the Knicks, and that's it for the roundup right now. And based on going to another segment, which is our honorable mentions of the week. And basically, for honorable mentions of the week, I want to start with you, Flo. Who's your honorable mention for the week if you have one?
Oh, pretty much you already know who it is, man. Kyle O'Quinn. Come on, man. You didn't need to ask that. Come on. 20 points, 9 of 11 from the field, 13 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 block shots, and he held Karl Anthony Towns to 20 points of 5 of 18 in the field. Excellent job by Kyle O'Quinn. He's my honorable mention of the week, man. He deserves it, man. Kudos. And he should be the starting Knicks center, period.
I hear you. I hear that. And how about you, Danny D? Who's your honorable mention for the week?
My honorable mention is going to be Jamal Murray, the rookie from Kentucky that plays in Denver. Right now, he got the Western Conference Rookie of the Week, and he's leading right now all rookies, first or second behind Joel Embiid, and he is averaging 10 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists out there in Denver. Kudos to that young man out there in Denver, Jamal Murray.
Okay, very good pick one right there. I like that one. For me, it'd be Kevin Love, from the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers went 3-0, and he's averaged 30.7 points per game during that. He also had 9.7 rebounds, 2.7 assists, and he shot 19 of 29 from three-point land, which is a big push for, Kevin Love. And, it's nice to see him really try to come back considering how horrible he played to me last playoffs, and it's particularly in the finals. So we'll just see if that's going to be more things to come right now. So we'll see. And basically that's it for our NBA Honorable Mentions of the week. And I'll transition to another one of our main segments, which is Hot Topics. For today's Hot Topics, today we are asking the question, who are the best coaches in the NBA at this present time? Also, as a form of reference, who were some of the best coaches within the 90s and the 2000s? What are some of your initial thoughts regarding this topic, Flo?
Well, pretty much LA, this, during the production meeting we had earlier this morning, this was one of my favorite topics. Exactly. I would say, honestly, I have a lot of coaches, like in terms of like the best coaches in the 90s. I have a list of 9 coaches right now. No specific order, but Phil Jackson, coaching pretty much the Chicago Bulls and Los Angeles Lakers. 11 championships.
But this would be for the 90s and 2000, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
That's number 1. Number 2, I'm going to have to go with pretty much Pat Riley. Excellent coach, man. He's got 1 ring with the Miami Heat. Came out of retirement just to help Shaq and D Wade, coaching them through that championship. Overall, he's got 5 rings. He has 4 rings with the Lakers. Number 3, I'll probably go with Chuck Daly. Pretty much back-to-back championships, with the Detroit Pistons, coaching Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas, Rick Mahorn, Bill Lambert. Excellent job. He's done an excellent job. May Chuck Daly rest in peace, man. Excellent coach.
Very true.
Another coach I like to mention, Jerry Sloan. Coached the Utah Jazz, He's always been able to get that team in the playoffs consistently every year with 2 stars and one productive role player, which is the current coach of the Knicks, Jeff Hornacek. Excellent job with that team, man. Pretty much excellent job. Another coach I like to mention, believe it or not, Rick Adelman, coached the Portland Trailblazers, able to bring them over to the finals. They were pretty much missing a star.
And they should have won that finals too.
I agree with you. Definitely agree with you because they had some good pieces there, but I agree with you. You had their small forward was Jerome Kersey. Rest in peace. A great basketball player. Mm-hmm. They had Cliff Robinson come off the bench. I was a big fan of him. And they had Terry Porter, who was an underrated point guard, Portland had a good team. Definitely had a good team. Another coach I like to mention, George Karl. Coaching the Seattle Supersonics. Carrying them to the playoffs. Even though I know they lost 1 year to the Denver Nuggets in the early 90s, but overall he's done an excellent job. Not only coaching the Supersonics, but also coaching Carmelo Anthony with the Denver Nuggets when he played for the Nuggets. When he started his NBA career. Carrying them over to the Western Conference Finals, with an older Allen Iverson and an older Chauncey Big Shot Billups. And I have 2 more coaches. Larry Brown with the Detroit Pistons, leading them to the championship with Rasheed Wallace, the missing piece that they were looking for when they had Chauncey Big Shot Billups. They had my man Big Ben Wallace. Excellent job. He's got 1 ring, finals 2 years in a row. I know they lost to the Spurs, with Big Shot Bob, Robert Horry, knocking down that big 3 on Father's Day. That was a tough loss for Detroit. And they weren't able to recover from that finals loss. Last but not least, Lenny Wilkins, winningest coach in NBA history. When I think of Atlanta Hawks, I actually think of Lenny Wilkins, man. He actually put that franchise on the map with Dominique Wilkins. Excellent job. Excellent job, man. This guy was a great point guard. I believe he led the Seattle Supersonics to their last championship.
One of Brooklyn's finest.
Guy's a great point guard, man. Yeah, great point guard, great Hall of Famer, great coach. You know, he even coached the Knicks a couple of years. You know, excellent job. He's a great coach. You know, so those are my coaches I have for the '90s.
Okay.
I don't know if you wanted me to lead into the current coaches right now in NBA. To me, that's like my top 5, top 6.
Let me go to Danny D first and see his top
No
90s
problem.
and 2000, and then we'll come back to that. But that sounds a
No
very good
problem.
list. Okay.
No problem.
I have 7 for the top 90s and 2000 to be Danny D. How about you?
It's going to be quite similar. It's going to be quite similar. I'm going to piggyback on Flo. The only person I probably add to that list of Flo is probably Don Nelson.
Exactly.
That's the only person 3-time coach of the year, but not really 1992 he had it. And then that's the only person I would add to that. And he's a 5-time NBA champion, my man Don Nelson, big head Don Nelson. I like to call him.
I like Don
big
too.
head, brother.
I thought he's one of the coaches that's like ahead of his time. You know, I think that's going to go to one of the questions I have later. Though I don't want to jump into that too early.
That's the time, and I still like that when he did that big upset. Remember, because he did with the Golden State when they upset him, the 8 they upset Dallas. I think that was great. That's why I still remember that time. He was like, "Yo, we was gonna do small ball on these fools." That opened the gate for the Golden State Warriors. You know what I'm saying? They kept on doing that. I don't like how they play my man Mark. We still love you, Mark.
Very true. Very true. My top 7 for the 90s and 2000s would be Pat Riley would be number 1 for the Lakers and Knicks during that time. Also, Phil Jackson be my number 2. Chuck Daly be number 3. Jerry Sloan number 4. One I'm not sure y'all had in your list with Rudy Tomjanovich. He'd be my number 5. Larry Brown number 6, and Don Nelson for number 7. And some of the things I thought about regarding, I want to ask you each of this question too. What are some of the coaching keys that you feel makes a great coach in your eyes? Like maybe 1 or 2 things that really stands out. Rather, I don't want to go that far ahead, but starting with you, Flo, what's some of the main coaching keys you think that stands out that separates a great coach from a good coach?
I think it's important for these, for a coach really to like develop players, teach them how to play defense, teach them the fundamentals of basketball. That's very important. So those are the keys really that's important to me in terms of what I was looking for a head coach. Teach the players, the fundamentals of basketball, work with them, develop them, and defense. I'm a big fan of defensive-minded coaches. You know that. Big fan.
Very true. I know that. Okay. And how about you, Dandy? What's some of the coaching keys that stands out to you that made you make your list up?
That, and also that you understand the players. Because sometimes if you understand the players, like how Larry Brown was able to sit down and actually teach and understand AI, So they got together. He understood them on a deeper level that was just more than just basketball. So that's how they developed the trust that they had, the bond in the locker room. So now that you have the bond, now the players respect you. So now it's more of a respect thing, and they trust you, and they trust what you're saying out there, as opposed to like an Eric Spoelstra. You know how LeBron James was like, I'm not respecting this dude, or Dwayne Wade, they played him. So it's more like a respect level, and they understand his players.
Right. I definitely see your point of view. And for me, I think the consistency is number 1, maybe. I think one thing a lot of people get caught up is the championship rings. Like you automatically think of the Auburn and Jackson, which is taking nothing from them. You know the wins are there. You have to acknowledge that 11 rings for Phil Jackson. But also you have to look at not just the talent factor is also a major issue to me. I think we'll get more into as we go along. Just looking at the talent they had on the team that they was able to win with. Sometimes some coaches bring the best out of a small bit of talent, like you saw in Philadelphia with Larry Brown. And you also seen that with Jerry Sloan, the consistency with Utah, never really having a big free agent that really came there, but consistency was always in the finals, always in the playoffs. There's something to be said about that. When you think of the Jazz, I think even now you still think of Jerry Sloan, and there's a lot to be said about that. Also, I think you have to look at the play of the teams. Like, can this coach adjust to the team rather than always having the team adjust to the coach, like getting the best out of them? I think Rick Carlisle does a great job of that, speaking for present coaches, but also I think Pat Riley was very good with that. You saw the Showtime Lakers at the time, and then you also seen him come back with basically Detroit Bad Boys type basketball, the New York Knicks, 2 very different teams, very different talents he had on the teams, and still was able to win and get both to the finals. That says a lot to me. And also I think you have to look at just the talent overall, how much do you get out of the players versus before they got there? I think that's something you have to look at other than just the rings, which I think there's a lot of people get too caught up in that right now. And then just to move a transition into the next thing, what are some of your top coaches for the present time? Basically your top 5 or 6. Starting with you, Danny D. Who's your top 5 or 6 coaches at this time?
Right now, I have Greg Popovich. He's definitely going to be up there. And that's no order. I got Greg Pop up there. Brad Stevens, a young guy out there from Boston Celtics. I actually like Billy Donovan for Oklahoma. Dwayne Casey. And Stan Van Gundy out there in Detroit. I really think they get together and they're doing their thing with the pieces that they have.
Okay, very good. How about you, Flo? Who's your top 5 or 6 right now at the present time?
Pretty much for me, my top 6, just to piggyback off of Danny D. Number 1, Greg Popovich. Consistency with the Spurs. Every year he gets them into the playoffs. Pretty much he's able to develop develop players, nurture them, work with them. Number 2, Brad Stevens from the Boston Celtics. For him to be able to win with that roster, pretty much, they don't really have any stars there with the exception of Al Horford. That's amazing. Excellent job by Brad Stevens, man. And especially he's able to have, he can relate to the players. Especially he's one of the youngest coaches in the NBA. So it's really an impressive job with him. So he's number 2. Number 3, I got to go Rick Carlisle with the Dallas Mavericks. Pretty much he was able to help Dirk Nowitzki win a championship, Excellent job there. And also he did an excellent job with the Detroit Pistons, He's able to weather the storm, So he did an excellent job there. And also Indiana Pacers. So great coach overall, man. He's learned a lot over the years working with Larry Bird. I apologize. Another coach I have to mention, Danny D mentioned earlier, Stan Van Gundy. Stand by me, Stan Van Gundy. He's able to coach that knucklehead, Dwight Howard in Orlando, when Dwight was a little young baby with no sense in that brain. And he's able to lead that Orlando Magic's team to the finals against the Lakers. Unfortunately, Mr. Van Gundy made one critical mistake starting Jameer Nelson over Rafe Alston. And that pretty much doomed them in that finals. And he's doing an excellent job right now with Detroit Pistons. I'm hoping Mr. Dolan is watching Mr. Van Gundy because pretty much Van Gundy has 2 jobs. Not only he's the coach, but he's also the president and GM as a basketball operation of the Detroit Pistons. He's making $7 million. So I'm hoping that Mr. Dolan is watching this, and I hope he realizes that could have saved some money by going after Stan Van Gundy. Another coach I'm really in love with, and he doesn't get the credit he deserves. He's pretty much a former assistant coach with the New York Knicks. Steve Clifford, pretty much, man, with the Charlotte Hornets. Excellent job, man. Excellent job, man. Taking a team with no stars and, bringing them into the playoffs. Since he's been the head coach of the Charlotte Hornets, this team is actually number 1 in the NBA with the least turnovers per game. Average. That's amazing. Simply amazing.
They play such a control offense, though. It's like he's the exact opposite of Dan. I said they play such a control offense, though. It's like he's the exact opposite of D'Antoni. That's the only thing I'm not that crazy about him with. And I would call Kemba Walker a semi-star at this point. But go ahead, Flo.
Kemba Walker's not a star yet. He's a fringe player. He will be a star in this league, but he's not a star yet. He's a fringe player. If he can get this team back in the playoffs again, yeah, and that we can say he's a star. We know he should be a star in this league, but not yet. One more year. Just give him that one more year. Last but not least, my man, Dwayne Casey of the Toronto Raptors. He was pretty much the defensive assistant coach for the Dallas Mavericks under Rick Carlisle, helping Dirk Nowitzki win that elusive NBA championship. This guy knows defense. He preached defense. He stressed defense. Excellent coach of the Toronto Raptors. He's able to have these players, his 2 star players, Kyle Lowry DeMar DeRozan, have these guys to gel, develop team chemistry, work with these guys. Excellent job by Dwayne Casey, man. Excellent job.
Okay. Thank you, Flo. For my top 5 coaches at this time, I'd say 6. No, I'd say 7. I just thought about the one that Danny D brought up. I forgot about. Number 1 would be Greg Popovich. Nothing else to really said. 5 rings with the Spurs. Rick Carlisle. He's been a great coach with the Pacers as well as with the Mavericks. Brad Stevens, I think, is one of the great young minds in the game right now. You can really see the team playing very hard for him. You could definitely see his impacts very early in with this team. Stan Van Gundy, as you both already stated. I think Terry Stotts with the Blazers, I think he would be one of the better coaches. Just looking at how that team still was able to make the playoffs after losing Aldridge. And I think he really brings the best out of them. I mean, to keep that team focused and keep them believing that they could win, because they didn't have the best talent at that time, I think says a lot about him. I think Mike Budenholzer also was a very good one with the Hawks. I think getting a lot out of them, what they have. And also think Donovan, as you stated, Danny. I think he's one of the better coaches too. They should have had made it to the finals last year to me with the Thunder. I don't really think that was his fault. Really, too many negative things he did at the time, and I just think he really stepped right out of the college ranks to really didn't miss a beat and pushed them to the next level. And they really should have got over the hump. Unfortunately, they didn't. The whole Durant thing happened afterwards, but I think you're going to see a lot of good things from him down the road. And then also basically a question regarding the coaches at this time, for the present day coaches. What coaches do you consider present or maybe in the 90s or 2000s as somewhat overrated? How about you, Danny D? What you say about that?
You said present or.
You can start the present ones that might be overrated, and then maybe step into the 90s, 2000s might be overrated, or you can do a reverse. Either one.
I'm gonna do a mixture. I'm telling you right now. Phil Jackson overrated. Doc Rivers overrated. Both of them overrated coaches.
No Christmas cards for y'all. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no Christmas card. It's not. I'm just saying it's the fact. It's just the fact, though. I'm just saying that for Phil, like you said, I'm not going by rings because he has 11 rings, but then he basically had 2 greatest players. He had Mike and Kobe.
True, but all right, just be devil's advocate. You had, what's his name? What's the guy that was before Phil came there? The coach for the Bulls.
Oh, Doug
Collins. Yeah, Mike.
But Scotty wasn't on the team at that point, though.
Okay.
Scotty wasn't on the team.
No, I agree. I'm just trying, playing devil's advocate at the point.
I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. I'm just giving my opinion. Overrated, man. I'm not giving take. I'm just saying overrated. And Doc, I'm just saying for Doc, he had the 1 ring, yes, but then I don't know what's going on. If he just makes it to the Western Conference Finals, I can take the label off of that. Other than that, if he can make it to the Western Conference Finals, then I'll just take the label of overrated. Doc, I still love you though, bro. I'll see you at Christmas.
How about you, Flo? Anyone else you want to name, Danny D? That might be reading that.
Not
okay. And how about you, Flo? Any coach that might see a tad bit of overrated in your eyes?
Sure. Pretty much, I would say currently in the NBA, in my opinion, Fred Hoiberg with the Chicago Bulls. I thought that it was a big disservice for the Bulls to fire the coach at the time, who's actually the current coach of the Minnesota T-Wolves, Tom Thibodeau. You fired a coach pretty much who's got you to the playoffs consistently since he's been there 5 years in a row. Fred Hoiberg comes in, doesn't do anything in the first season at all. This is the second season. I think that if you're going to fire a guy like Tom Thibodeau, you better go after a big-name coach. Fred Hoiberg, to me, doesn't cut it. He doesn't fit the NBA right now. He really doesn't. As opposed now to past coaches, I got 3 coaches right now that are also overrated, that are coaching currently in the NBA. One is Scotty Brooks with Oklahoma City Thunder. I just wasn't really that impressed with him overall, man. He's a good coach, but I think he gets too much credit, pretty much. Eric Spoelstra of the Miami Heat. I think that the LeBron and D Wade and Chris Bosh won those rings in spite of him, not for him. I don't think he bring that much value to the table as a coach. And last but not least, Mike D'Antoni. We had him here in New York. I'm not too fond of the sissy ball, offensive, strategy. I think it stinks. I think it's only good for the regular season, but it gets exposed in the playoffs. And to back my theory up, you just got to go back to when he was coaching the Phoenix Suns. When he had Amari Stoudemire, and he was never able to take Amari over to that next step. Granted, I understand that they played the Spurs, a couple times in those Western Conference Finals, but it's just that it doesn't work, man. Sissy ball doesn't work, man. Pretty much, you're trying to score as much points as possible in 24 seconds or less. It just doesn't work, man. It's good for the regular season, but it just come playoff time doesn't have any value, man. It really doesn't.
Okay, thank you, Flo, for those suggestions and recommendations. Basically, on your side, I agree with some of them. Same thing with Danny. I agree with some of his, but some ones I would say Jackson on some level, not so much really overrated. It's like I didn't get to see what he could do with a different type of team. I think he's still one of the best coaches that was out there. It's something to be said to win with a team that has all those pieces. You have to think about this: the personalities, the Rodmans, the Jordans, the Pippen, different things like that, and still keep it functioning, keeping it going. Same thing with the West you saw with Kobe and Shaq. He was still to get the win for a long time. But you never had a team, like I was stated before, with like Pat Riley. I never seen really have two different teams that didn't have the best talent in the league at the time. And that takes a lot of points away from me. Also, I think Spoelstra, as you stated, I think is also the Jackson effect. You got the basically 2 or 3 best players in the league all on one team. It's very hard not to make it to the finals with certain team, with certain setup like that. Also, having Pat Riley in the front office does definitely help. Things of that nature. Also, think Frank Vogel might be a little bit overrated, especially with not doing the move, taking Hibbert out. I still stands in my mind, things like that. I thought he would do a better. Go ahead.
I'm laughing for that easy layup, huh?
I can't forget that one, man. I'm really into like end game situations that stood out to me. It was something that should have happened right away. Also, think in that respect, like you stated, Flo D'Antoni, I'm not a big fan of coach who only coach one way. I think he's like that one trick pony type of thing. To me, it's like he's more like an offensive coordinator. So I don't really look as a full head coach in that regard. Also, think George Karl maybe a little bit overrated. I think at the time you had Peyton was one of the better defensive players in the league. Also had Sean Kemp. He had a very good, solid team. I really haven't seen him do too much after that. You had a couple of times with Denver, but once again, it seems like we always break down with personality issues, and I think that reflects the coach sometimes. You can't always be mellow for, can't always be boogie. Sometimes you have to take the onus as a coach with something. I think he's a very good coach, but might be a tad bit overrated. And then last, I thought you might have named this one, D. A fan of a coach I am, and Steve Kerr. But I also
feel I was about to name that right now. I forgot, he's been number one on that list.
But I feel like he's also a little bit overrated because I think Mark Jackson really laid the foundation. I think a lot of people forget about that right now, looking back at it. Anything you want to elaborate on that, Danny?
He's using the same exact system that Mark used. It's the same exact system. It's the same exact system. And it's like Flo said, when they got rid of Tom Thibodeau, right? He went to play. Mark Jackson was going to you kick the man out, and he made the playoffs consistently. The only problems that he had was that Stephen Curry wasn't healthy when he had him. Stephen Curry had bad ankles, and he was missing a lot of games. And despite that, he was still doing good.
And then you fired Mark as well.
Yeah, all type of things like that. You fire Mark, and then Steve comes around, and it's the new coming age. Oh my goodness, Steve Kerr. He's just a genius. What did he do so differently? I still want to know. And not forget, when Steve Kerr was out, Luke did the same exact thing, and they was winning. They were winning.
Yeah, that hurt
why
it
was
too.
He a great coach? And they did the same. They had the matter of fact, they had a better record.
Mm-hmm. I
and that was the assistant coach. And that was the assistant coach.
And okay. And how about coaches you would consider underrated? How about that, Flo? Who would you coach you might consider underrated at this point? Either 1990s, 2000, and then go right into the present day.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I kind of focus on present day. I don't have anything right now in 1990s, but
that's fine.
Currently, right now, I only have 4 guys to me that are underrated. Number 1, a coach that you mentioned earlier, L.A., Mike Budenholzer of the Atlanta Hawks. He's number 1 in my opinion as one of the most underrated coaches in the NBA. To be able to get the Atlanta Hawks team to the playoffs with pretty much, two, I would say, low-level superstars, not in the upper echelon of LeBron James caliber, but Paul Millsap, Al Horford, also Jeff Teague, and he brought in that Spurs system. He's done an excellent job over there in Atlanta, And unfortunately, he hasn't been able to get over that hump because his team is always running to LeBron James in that Eastern Conference Final. So that's my first coach. My second coach, believe it or not, Utah Jazz's own Quinn Snyder. I was kind of concerned that leaving, the University of Missouri to come coach the NBA, I was very concerned for him. I've always been a fan of him in college basketball. I just wasn't too sure how he would adjust into the NBA, but you know what? To be able to get that Utah team to win some basketball games over there without a bona fide superstar, excellent job. My third choice has got to be the coach currently of the New York Knicks, Jeff Hornacek. I felt like he got ran out of Phoenix, and I don't, be able to allow the Phoenix Suns to win 48 to 50 games in his first season as head coach on that team, playing a little bit of small ball, using the talent that he had in front of him, going with a 3-guard lineup, pretty much with Isaiah Thomas, who's currently with the Boston Celtics, Eric Bledsoe, who's still currently with the Phoenix Suns, and also Brandon Knight, who's still currently with the Phoenix Suns. He was able to win with the talent that he had in front of him. Unfortunately, his second and third season coaching that team, players got hurt, Eric Bledsoe, and guys being traded, such as Isaiah Thomas. At the end of the day, man, Coach Hornacek was ran out of town. This is his first season with the Knicks. I think that he's doing an excellent job with this team. What I'm more impressed with him coaching this Knicks team is in-game adjustment, especially, during timeouts, especially in the fourth quarter. He's made a lot of the right moves. So he's number 3 in terms of my underrated coach in the NBA. Last but not least, David Fizdale with the Memphis Grizzlies. Again, another coach who's been a career assistant under Pat Riley in Miami and also Eric Spoelstra. He's done an excellent job, man. In terms of really paying his dues, in terms of coming to this Memphis Grizzlies team and is able to, lead them to a winning record, especially when you have one fringe all-star that I know that Danny D is not a fan of, who's currently injured right now, which is Mike Conley Jr. He's able to, to lead this Memphis basketball team to winning, playing good basketball, with the pieces that he has around him right now. So, kudos to David Fizdale.
Okay, sounds good, Flo. How about you, Danny? Who's your underrated coaches at this time, maybe from the 90s, 2000, or present day?
The present day right now, I'm going to go with Terry Stotts from Portland. Like you said before, you had him in one of your best coaches lately, but I think he's really underrated for Portland because with the talent that he got, these guys are still balling. And right now, I think they're currently at the 7th or 8th seed out in the Western Conference, and it's really rough out there. And he really got those guys balling together. And then I'm going to go with Tom Thibodeau for Minnesota. even though he's getting real frustrated out there. He really got those young guys playing together, and they're doing what they have to do, even though it's real frustrating for him. And then the last person I was going to say, actually, he got fired, and he was with the mentally Grizzlies. I'm going to go with Dave Georgia, even though he took over Tom Tisdale is also the new coach, but I really think he was an underrated coach because he shouldn't have got fired, and they parted ways with him, and I really think he didn't deserve to get fired for the Grizzlies. But, it's the NBA business, and I think he was really underrated, and he should have got the credit that he deserved.
Okay, I definitely agree with that. Thank you, Danny D. For me, I'll say for the 90s, 2000s / coach that I consider underrated would be Chuck Daly. I feel like even though he's one of the top coaches, I mean, he was in the basically the dream team, the original. But I also feel sometimes you look back at a lot of people just kind of leave him out of the conversation. I thought he did a good job with the Nets at the time, but I also feel like, he won the 2 championships with the Pistons with a very difficult team at sometimes, if you look at it individually, and kept them together. And I also feel like he did the same thing with the original dream team. There's a lot of pressure on that team, a lot of different personalities, and he basically brought out the best of them. So I feel like he's one of them. You don't look back at the same way. I also feel like Don Nelson, we spoke about previously, I feel like he was ahead of his time with a lot of things he was trying to do, especially with the Knicks at the time. I remember Pat Ewing really had a lot of issue with him, which brought in Jeff Van Gundy at the time, because during that time, Don Nelson wanted to take the ball out of Ewing's hand and let Mason bring the ball as one of the first point forwards at that time. And I think that was a position you really didn't see that utilized that much at that time. So I think a lot of the things he was trying to do really were working, but a lot of the players really wasn't given an opportunity to utilize it. I also think maybe present day, like you stated, Flo, I think Hornets has done a great job so far. I also thought he did a good job with Phoenix. So I think he's one of the undervalued coaches. And Donovan, to come back from the college ranks and just step right in, it looks like a regular head season coach from the NBA. I think that says a lot right now. I think he's only going to get better as time goes along. He's one of the coaches that he does a lot of things that I would like to see coaches do. So to me, if I understand where you're coming from, it makes sense on a certain level. And basically for the last question regarding this topic, what coach do you consider that could step in, basically, that would be a good 90s coach or 2000s coach and would be a great coach at this time? So I'm with you, Danny D.
What coach? What coach would I say? I would think Lenny Wilkins can transition from back then to now. If he was in the 2000s, I definitely think. Person.
Okay. Oh, that's fine. It's just basically I want to see like a lot of people and saying that a lot of the players have changed since that time frame. They feel like there's a lot, I won't say softer, but not the same type of contact they had before. Also the way, the style of play with the big men stepping out, hitting threes, more of not the low post games. So I'm just trying to see what coach you think would transition.
Yeah, that's what I'm
very
saying.
good now.
Because I'm thinking, like some of the coaches from the 90s and 2000s, I really wouldn't see it, because I think Larry Brown I think he'd be excellent, right? Still doing, because he still coaches, when he's coaching in the college. That's why I said I wouldn't say like a Larry Brown and stuff like that, because it's still the 90s to like the 2000s. It wouldn't be much unless we went to like the 80s or something like that, like Pat, because Pat did it from the 80s and he came down in 2000 and still did it,
Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much, D. How about you, Flo? Who's a coach you may say from the 80s and not 80s, from the 90s and 2000s that might transition well into our present day game?
Well, I believe Danny D just mentioned like literally a minute ago, Larry Brown, who's currently coaching right now in the college basketball. I definitely think he would succeed coaching currently in this NBA and even, in the past in the 90s. So he's one coach. Okay. Another coach, Popovich, definitely, he would definitely wouldn't be a problem, coaching within the 90s to now. And Rick Carlisle. I think those are the three coaches that definitely, that can coach in the 90s and coach currently in this league.
I have to agree with both of you on your picks. The one of the first I think I would pick would be Don Nelson. I think we brought his name up a lot, but I think I really would like to see what he could do with the team right now. just look at like a Karl Anthony Towns, that type of team with these guys stepping out, hitting threes, playing different positions. I think he would really flourish in this type of offense, defensive type era. I think he really was thinking along these lines earlier. And I think a lot of teams are very open to that right now. So I really would like to see if he was younger in his prime, what he could have done with this type of teams out here right now. And basically that finishes that topic for today, our hot topic. And just to end the show, regarding any closing remarks, starting with Danny, how do you feel everything about the closing remarks and about the end of our show? Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm gonna say thank you to our listeners. Before I think I want to get the flow, because Flo want to hear that get that trade rumor and flow about that boy Noah.
Oh. Okay, I understand. Same question to you, Flo. Any closing remarks?
Pretty much a couple of things. I forgot to mention Houston Rockets putting an end to the Golden State Warriors 12-game winning streak with a 132-127 victory. Yes, James Harden, 29 points, 15 rebounds, 13 assists. Ryan Anderson, 29 points, 5 rebounds, shot 5 of 10 from the three-point line. And another player I like to mention who's currently coming off the bench since Patrick Beverley's healthy, is a guy like I've honestly felt Phil Jackson should have gone after instead of Courtney Lee. Eric Gordon, 23 points, 5 assists, 1 steal, shot 4 of 9 from three-point land. He shot 9 of 19 off from the field. And pretty much holding Klay Thompson to 15 points, 4 of 20 from the field, 3 of 13 from three-point land. So that's one thing I wanted to mention earlier. That's one. 2, Brooklyn Nets signed Donaskis Montehunis to an offer sheet. 4 years, $37 million. Houston Rockets have a couple of days to match that offer. That's one thing I wanted to mention. Another thing I wanted to mention, Memphis Grizzlies could sign former point guard / shooting guard, former Knick, Tony Douglas. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, guys, Mike Conley Jr. is injured, and the Grizzlies are depending on the NBA to give them an injury exemption so they can sign Tony Douglas. Last but not least, the big trade rumor I wanted to discuss earlier in the show. Here we go. The Milwaukee Bucks. Well, let me talk about Milwaukee Bucks for a quick minute. Milwaukee Bucks would trade center Greg Monroe to New Orleans Pelicans for small forward Tyreke Evans and power center Omar Sheik. I wanted to know, guys, what's your take on this before I mention the Joe Noah trade rumor?
Good start there, Didi. We go on that last.
Who was it again?
Pretty much a great.
Greg Monroe for Omar Sheik and Tyreke.
Yeah, Greg Monroe going back home to New Orleans. He's from Louisiana for small forward Tyreke Evans and starting center Omar Sheik.
I wouldn't do it because Tyreke and I think both of them might be better than Greg Monroe. I wouldn't do it. It wouldn't game for me. I'd keep it how it was if I was the Pelicans.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we touched upon this a little bit previously. Just not a big fan of it right now. I don't think you're getting the best out of Monroe. So I really wouldn't. I'm not even sure. Not to go back, but I want to go back real quick. Regarding the Nets move that Montanus, do you feel like that's a good move for them? I mean, they're talking about $37 million for him. I mean, to me personally, I don't like the move. I wouldn't even match it if I was there. How about you, Flo? What you say about that one?
Pretty much based on the way the contract has been written. Only $5 million is guaranteed to on this contract. So I think it's a good move for Brooklyn if they can get this guy. This guy is pretty much is a big fella that can score in the low post. And I know that I've been hearing rumors, there's some concerns about his back. I think he's 100% healthy. So believe it or not, this is actually a low risk, high reward deal for Brooklyn. If Houston doesn't match it, because again, only $5 million is guaranteed. You know.
I would guess so. I'm just not a big fan of his. What'd you say, Danny?
If the money's right, if it's low, I'll take it. It could be a steal. If the money's right, though.
Okay, we'll see. And how about that Graham Monroe deal? How about that, Flo? What you thought about that one since you brought it up?
Pretty much, money wise, the deal makes sense. Value wise, you know, I don't think it's a good deal for New Orleans, to believe it or not. I think it's more of a better deal for Milwaukee, because I think Jason Kidd will definitely get a center coming off the bench in the sheet, and definitely he'll get a small forward, Tariq Evans, where that can actually replace Chris Middleton, who's still out with an injury. So it gives the Milwaukee Bucks some depth. With Monroe, he's not even getting any minutes in Milwaukee. They gave him that big 3-year, $48 million contract, and it hasn't panned out for him. Pretty much he's not really a defensive stopper. I know he's a big fella. He's 6'10", and 7 feet tall, left-handed. He can score on the block. Pretty much, man. Pretty much. So once again, I don't like this deal for New Orleans. New Orleans, I can see them making this deal only because they probably want to add an offensive threat next to the unicorn Anthony Davis. But I don't think this trade makes sense for them value-wise.
Okay. Anything else you want to state, Flo?
Pretty much. I want to talk about this Joakim Noah trade proposal.
Okay.
Pretty much, the New York Knicks would propose. This is a trade proposal. Small forward Lance Thomas, backup shooting guard Sasha Vujacic, and injured, overpaid center Joakim Noah. This is a big 3-team trade. In return, the Knicks would get small forward Rudy Gay, center Nikola Pekovic from the Minnesota T-Wolves, and also the backup center for the Minnesota T-Wolves, Cole Aldridge, former Knick. The Sacramento Kings would acquire point guard Ricky Rubio and Knicks backup small forward Lance Thomas. And for the Minnesota T-Wolves, what they'll get in return, they get experience, something that Coach Tom Thibodeau desperately is demanding. He gets center Joakim Noah, shooting guard Sasha Vujacic, who's got plenty of rings from playing under former coach Phil Jackson with the Los Angeles Lakers, and shooting guard Ben McEnroe, who's pretty much lost his starting position to former Knick Aaron Afalo in Sacramento. What is your take on this trade proposal, guys?
A lot of moving pieces to me. Just off the bat, it looks good for the Knicks right now because Noah's playing so badly. So right now, it looks like a good move. You're getting 2 potential starters with Petrovic, and also Rudy Gay will be coming to the Knicks, correct?
Correct.
So that's another spawn off the bench, also small forward / 2 guard that can kind of spell you at both of those positions. Petrovic, I mean, he's good inside. He's a big body, can grab some boards. He's not the most mobile of big men, but right now that'd be a nice little piece to go alongside O'Quinn and things of that nature. Also against Porzingis, not having to bang around with the big guys all day. But right now it looks pretty good for them. I also understand the move from Timberwolves side of the deal. Also understand it as well from Sacramento. It's like it's a move that actually can help every team right now. But I still feel a little bit like it's a little early, but I'll be more open to a move like that. How about you, Danny D? What you think?
Yeah, it'd be a good move, but I'm just thinking about the money. I don't think money-wise it would work, though. Like the contracts and things like that, because I don't know if some of them have like trade restrictions. I'm not sure, but it'd be beneficial to all the teams if it can go through.
And how about you, Flo, overall?
I love this trade for the Knicks pretty much because you're getting a backup small forward of Rudy Gay, pretty much that's offensive minded. You can give Carmelo a breather, you know. So I love this trade for the Knicks. Also, you're getting Pekovic, who's a bruiser that can score in the low post, that can bang with the other big fellas, you know. So I love this trade. And then getting a comparable backup big man in Cole Aldridge, who used to play with the Knicks. A shot blocker. He's still got he's still working on his game, but he's getting a little better. He's not where he needs to be, but definitely, man, I don't mind bringing him back to New York, because no one's not cutting it at the end of the day. So if I'm able to trade my dead weight, which is small forward Lance Thomas, Sasha Vujic, and Joakim Noah, that's a win-win for the Knicks, man. Definitely a win-win.
And hold up, did you know Lance Thomas, he signed, his extension was like 3 to 4 years for $21 million? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I believe so. I remember they couldn't sign Galloway because they signed him, I think so, at the time.
I was like, $21 million?
They gave him a lot. I wasn't a big fan of it, but
I didn't know.
Gentlemen, believe it or not, Lance Thomas actually took a pay cut. There were other teams that was interested in Lance Thomas in the offseason, and they were offering him crazy money, like 40 mil, 50 mil. They were offering crazy money. He actually took a discount to come back to New York, believe it or not. I believe it was 4 years, and I believe it's for $27 million.
Yeah, a lot of teams was throwing away money around at that time, so he's still on a discount right now. But everybody talking Noah, I'm talking about this guy, and he just came back from injury. I don't want to get into that right now. It's gonna go a whole nother few minutes with that, but not a big fan of this right now. Hopefully he can turn it around because I don't see him going anywhere. I'm hoping to see if, like you said, Lance, the real Lance, I wanted Lance to make them dance. I wanted to see if he could come back healthy before the end of the season. Maybe they could make one move before playoff time to try to, get Lance Stevenson over here. I still want to open it up if he could come back healthy before the end of this year and before playoff rosters are picked up. But, we'll see. Anything else you have with that, Flo, regarding that trade, or anything else just on your mind?
Pretty much the only negative with this trade proposal is you can't trade Joakim Noah until December 15. So that's the only negative. But other than that, I love this. I love this trade proposal, man. I wish it comes true, man. I know it's a rumor, but I would love this trade to go through, man. I would love this, definitely, man. You got to think about it. It gives the Knicks depth on their bench. You guys said early in the season in episode 1 of the podcast, you guys said you're not a fan of the Knicks bench, but guess what? This bench gets stronger. You got more big fellas, more bodies to bang with Pekovic, Cole Aldridge. You get a scorer, Rudy Gay, man, a prolific scorer. Strengthens your bench, man. Like I said, get rid of your team's dead weight for these guys, man. You guys know the 3 of the biggest weaknesses on the Knicks team is pretty much Lance Thomas, Joakim Noah, Sasha Vujic. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm going to miss Vujicic's leadership, but other than that, listen, I don't have no problem moving him, man.
He has been playing well, too. Hitting a couple of threes lately.
Yeah, like I said, I love Vujic for his experience. That's what I love him for. But like I said, if I get an opportunity to make a deal like that, I can get Rudy Gay. I got to make that deal, man. Seriously, I got to make that deal.
No, I understand. I definitely had to make that deal. It seems like that deal can actually go through. And like Danny D said, I think the main thing I have to look at is money-wise. That it even worse, salary cap-wise. If it does, it'd be hard to turn that down at this point. But that's it for me regarding it. I don't have any closing remarks. I think we hit pretty much on everything today. And I just want to thank the fellas, my co-hosts. As always, I appreciate your time, appreciate your efforts and everything. Also want to thank our loyal listeners, as always. Without you, there is no us. And I just hope everyone enjoyed the show. Continue to spread the word. Wishing you all the best. Take care. See ya.